Okay.
Hello, this is Patrick with Royas.
And I'm Tate.
Oh. And today we're talking about whether you should switch to the Godot game engine from your current game engine and the pros and cons of doing that.
Okay, I'm just gonna be honest. Just use whichever engine you know. Honestly.
Yeah, unless your engine doesn't do what you want it to do. Like, if you're using kind of like a code-free engine and there's like some very specific things you want to do that it just can't, then like maybe, or if you can't port to the platforms you want to port to, obviously that's like another really important thing. But yeah, for the most part, just stick with what you know, unless that you have a good reason to switch.
Yeah.
And we'll get into some of those reasons today on why.
Let's say you're in the market for an engine.
Yes.
Let's say you're looking for an engine. Here is our case for Godot or against Godot.
Yeah, and just our thoughts on whether you should or not. Okay.
All right. Let's go through some. What do you want to start with? Pros or cons? Pros or cons of Godot?
We could just talk about some of the reasons why you might want to switch, or some of the things you should take into account.
Okay.
Versus just straight up pros and cons.
You might want to switch. Okay. The first thing that comes to mind for me would be portability to different platforms.
Yes, Godot's got it's got really good support of all the platforms except consoles. You can port it to the consoles yourself, like you can build that yourself, or you can go through their company that they've got now, or is that not out yet?
That's out, I think. I think it's in like beta.
Yeah, so like there's definitely options, but like for the most part, Godot has really good support of everything. Like you've got WebGL, you've got Android, iOS, Mac, Windows, Linux.
And yeah, we're going to be comparing a lot to Unity because that's the engine we've worked with professionally for me about 5 years, you about 7.
Yeah.
And basically, let's be real here, Godot works infinitely better on Linux than Unity does.
Yes. Yeah, actually that's something I wanted to talk about is like at some point, we'll probably get to this later, but like it runs so well comparatively to Unity on Linux. And I don't think Unreal even has a Linux version. Let me look that up.
Unreal does not. Okay, I've seen like Tim Sweeney talk. He keeps saying like I will never switch to Linux kind of deal.
Why?
I don't know why. I use a Linux a lot, but okay.
Yeah.
Portability, that's a reason you might want to switch, because a lot of engines only support Windows, because guess what, 90% of your user base is on Windows, so
or like they mostly handle Android and iOS, like yeah. And a lot of them don't support WebGL. I've found, at least like the ones I've looked at.
No, not many support WebGL. Like WebGL's kind of a pain to work with.
Yeah, and when you're just getting started out though, like honestly, itch.io is so good.
Yeah.
To like put games on, like the game jams there have been super nice to do. And it's really good place to learn and get feedback on your games, because you're going to get a little bit of traction.
itch.io, you're always going to get a small amount of traction, and you're going to get more if it's WebGL, if they can just play it in the browser, because you're just lowering the barrier for entry. So that's very nice.
Yeah, like I put an Android link on like to the Play Store on there once, and some people actually played it. And I was just like, oh, wow, this actually got some traction. So WebGL just boosts that a lot. Okay, let's talk about the flexibility of the game engine. Godot is actually like, I know you and I say that it's opinionated, but like comparatively to like some of the other engines you and I have like dabbled in from time to time, you eventually can get to what you want in Godot no matter what. Like,
yes,
you can write C++ to do whatever you need to do if the engine can't do it, or you can write it in C#, or you can get the engine to do what you want pretty much 100% of the time.
Yeah.
It may take some work, but like you are going to be able to do it. Whereas some of the engines just like they just can't. But like, I remember back in the day hearing about what's that game? Celeste, where the Celeste
Oh,
devs
yes.
used Unity initially, and then they were like, oh, we don't like how the physics feels in Unity, so then they ended up switching to
Mono game.
Mono.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Switch to mono game.
And because they just liked how the physics felt better. Well, like in Godot, if you actually go back in our old videos, we test different physics engines in Godot. You can fairly easily port physics engines to Godot, and we actually know a developer who wrote his own 2D physics engine for it because he just needed certain things.
And like Unity, things like Unity are gonna fight you on it.
Yeah, it's not going to be as straightforward, at least I feel, to swap out those physics engines. Whereas Godot, it seems like it's not that big of a deal.
Okay, and moving on.
The learning curve, I think, is a good thing to talk about here.
Learning curve. Oddly enough, I think it's higher than Unity's.
I do too. When you started Unity, you were able to get something working very, very quickly your first like day.
Yes. Yes, when I started Unity, so like I technically learned Godot first. And what I found is a lot of my knowledge from Godot transferred to Unity really nicely. And when I switched back to Godot many years later, I found that the knowledge transferred less so back. So
yeah, like the knowledge transfer seems to transfer one way much better than it does the other way. And so yeah, I feel like Godot's got quite a steep learning curve, especially if you're comparing it to some of those like code-free engines or
like Click Team Fusion, I think, and Stencil.
Yeah, like or RPG Maker.
Yeah, RPG Maker.
If you're
the other one. Although that one does.
If you're working,
code,
yeah, but if you're working in those kinds of engines, I feel like Godot is gonna have a much steeper learning curve, especially if you want to do something very specific.
Like in Godot, you're always gonna have to program.
Yeah, always.
Always. Whereas like many other engines, and like if you're just trying to make a game, maybe Godot isn't for you. It like maybe you don't want to program.
Like I learned my initial game development stuff on Scratch. That's where I started. Yeah, that's going way back.
Oh, that is going back.
But like, you know, it's kind of nice to first, you know, walk before you run, and I feel like Godot is a little bit of running. So if you're just getting into it, yeah, like if you are just getting into it, if you're just learning to crawl and you're learning like a simple engine, that don't feel bad about that. Think of like have Godot in your back pocket as like as I get better into this and I know that I want to continue this, maybe think about switching to it then. But honestly,
that engine just doesn't, like we mentioned earlier, if it just doesn't support what you want to be doing, then look at Godot.
Yeah, like I used FlowLab or something at one point for something, and it's like there was just a lot of things that engine can't do.
Like my first engine where I tried to make a game was Alice 3D.
Oh, and no,
that was terrible. That was a nightmare. So
yes, that was
technically you and I both started with code-free engines.
That's true. Yeah. Like, I guess, yeah, I even started with Alice.
Yeah, you started with Alice as well, so...
And then, yeah, you went on to, like, Pygame and stuff, and I went on to Scratch.
Yeah, and, like, I would not recommend Pygame for a beginner at all.
No, no.
Like, if you're choosing between Godot and Pygame, just go Godot.
Just saying, just switch to Godot.
Yeah. If
GD
you know Pygame, don't bother. Like, if it does what you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, we can't stress that enough. As long as your engine does what you need, don't switch. That is just, we've said it enough times.
I will keep hammering it.
Yeah, we'll keep hammering that one in.
It doesn't matter. Minecraft was made in Java. Java sucks.
Oh, I hate Java.
So the engine does not make the game. Well, okay. By all technicality.
By all technicality.
By all technicality, the engine does make the game. The engine doesn't make the game good. There you go.
Yeah, that's you. And yeah, the engine will influence how the game comes out, though, because it'll fight you on. Every engine's gonna fight you on some things and make other things really easy. And those will influence how it feels, because it'll just naturally push you in a certain way. But for the most part, if you really are dedicated to making your game feel the way exactly you want it to feel, it's not going to matter. I guess that brings us to documentation versus other engines, which kind of leans into the learning curve a little bit, but like, honestly, the documentation is really good, especially if you're comparing it to other open sourced engines.
Oh, no other open source engine comes close. Not even remotely.
Like Open3D, it's like night and day. I remember trying to learn Open3D, and it was just like, oh, none of their tutorials or anything worked. When I was trying to like build my game, it's like it won't even compile.
Even to things like Unity, I can't speak on for Unreal, but the docs for Godot are a lot better than Unity's.
Yeah, and I don't imagine the like docs for the King engine or the like Gaijin engine, the War Thunder guys. I don't imagine the docs for their open sourced engines are like amazing either.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm curious about some of the Rust engines coming up, but yeah. I don't know enough about them to say anything.
Mm-hmm. But so like, if you're thinking of like, if you've got an engine and it doesn't do what you want it to do, but you're looking at like all the other like open sourced engines, I definitely recommend Godot over all of the others.
Yes, I would recommend it.
Unless you were needing something highly specific.
Like,
but
okay.
Oh, go ahead.
It's gonna be like for example, very high quality 3D might be a limitation if you want Godot.
Yeah, but you could, if you really wanted, you could always swap out the renderer or something like that.
All right, moving on. What else we got?
Compile times.
Oh,
especially if you have like really bad hardware. I can't stress it enough. The compile times make development so nice. Godot is so fast, even compared to Unity. Yes. It is just, it's beautiful. Whereas like some of these other engines, they will take minutes to deal with like your changes, and it sucks. Whereas Godot, most of the time you don't even really notice.
If you're in C#, you're talking seconds. You're talking like 1 to 2 seconds.
Yeah.
If you're
like
talking
maybe
GD
5 to 10 if you're slow.
You're not gonna notice. Like.
GD script, it's like, yeah, I don't think there is even a compile time.
No, there isn't. I think it's just interpreted at runtime.
Yeah, and it's just so nice, and especially if it's a relatively new engine or you're new to game development, the compile times make all the difference in the world. It allows you to tweak things and
or if you just
change
have a
things
bad
very quickly.
Computer.
Yes,
I do almost all my research for our Godot stuff on a crappy laptop.
Yeah, like a couple $100 several year old laptop, like, and Godot just runs just fine.
Yeah, Godot runs perfectly fine on it. There's really not much. Whereas like Unity on that thing, no, it would never work.
Yeah, I remember I took a class in university with Unity, and like half the students had to like borrow computers for the class because it was just like their computers couldn't handle Unity, and Unity's not that heavy.
No, whereas like Godot, it's just like, just grab any old Raspberry Pi and it'll run it fine.
Exactly, like you can run it on anything and it'll be just like all nice and happy. Like you can run it in the web browser.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I've never done that. I don't have a reason to do that, but you can. I know the benefits are with or drawbacks to it, but you can do it.
Okay, so I guess now we can talk about just let's get into the Linux stuff.
Oh.
Because I have thoughts.
Okay, let's preface this. Patrick and I have used Linux for years. All my non-main desktop work desktops are Linux. Like,
yeah, we are very much Linux people. I was actually daily driving Linux until we started this YouTube channel. And when Tate and I actually had a discussion where we were like, well, if we're going to record these videos, we should probably record it on the platform that most people are used to so that they can follow along.
Yes.
Rather than showing them some wild, weird operating systems that we're using. And I fully, like, we're actually going to change our channel to record everything on Linux when the Windows 11 force switch happens in October.
Yeah, because I'm not making that switch with them.
No, I am not.
Line in the sand,
Windows.
I ain't touching Windows 11. I use it at work. I hate it. So
yeah, like our work computers are all Windows 11 and it's horrible. Like, you're giving up performance. It's slower. And why? Because they just want more telemetry. They just collect more data from you.
Okay, this is not a Microsoft rant. Okay,
I'm in a Microsoft rant.
Okay, like we'll go for days. I'm not joking. Okay,
we have gone for days.
Okay, Linux. What do you want to talk about Linux?
It's just so much easier to get it running on than other engines. Like a lot of these other engines we've mentioned, like I don't think either the King or the War Thunder engines run on Linux natively. You might be able to build them for it. Unity is a pain to get going on Linux.
Unity's a nightmare to get working, and then it never works well.
Yeah, like, oh, it crashes so much on Linux. And then there was a few times I've built things on Unity in Linux, and then it just would, like, for Windows, and then it just wouldn't run on Windows. It just wouldn't do it for whatever reason. Whereas, like, Godot, I feel like the builds are much more reliable and everything.
Yeah.
Well, like, the main dev runs Linux.
Yeah, he's a daily driver Linux user, so it makes sense that it runs really well on Linux.
Yeah.
Which, hey, means great Steam Deck support, if that you're interested in that.
Yeah, and that also makes it easier to, like, put things on Android and stuff, because, like, those are all technically Linux-based.
Yeah, Android, Chrome OS.
Oculus.
Oculus, yeah. I wonder, I have an Oculus too. I need to experiment with Godot and OpenXR.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that needs to happen.
You should, definitely. That would be a cool thing to test out.
That would be a very cool thing to test out. Okay, any more for Linux?
I can't think of too much. Like, obviously, the whole dev experience is easily available on Linux as well, but that kind of, like, Visual Studio Code, very easy to get on Linux.
Yeah.
Just, like, all the tools, top to bottom, super simple. It's got good Blender integration, Linux. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna do easier to run on Linux.
Yeah, there.
I thought you had, like, a whole, like,
topic area,
I don't, and I was like, oh, okay, like, okay. I thought we were like, I was like, oh, there's gonna be like a list of 30 things. Okay.
No, I don't have a list of 30 things.
And here's the thing: if say maybe you don't have a computer, maybe you've got an old one in the corner, just put Linux on it. It'll run fine. It'll run really well. I promise you.
It's such a light operating system compared to Windows. It revives dead computers like no tomorrow.
Yeah, so, like, if you want to get into game dev and you don't, like, many people don't have computers anymore. Many people just have phones or tablets. And you got an old one in the corner, just put Linux on it and it'll run Godot probably fine.
Yeah, you can go on eBay and find, like, the most garbage computer you've ever seen for like $100. And it will run Linux and Godot just amazingly. So if you want to learn how to do game dev, just do that.
Yeah.
Pick a good starter engine, probably something code free just to like get into it, and then be like, but one day I will use Godot on this machine.
Or if
and
you're
it'll be
already a
amazing.
programmer, just be like, yeah, just hop in. Have fun
Yeah.
with it. It'll make you a better programmer, I promise you.
Yes. Because you have to build so many things for Godot, it's like it'll just make you a much better programmer.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to talk about?
Why would you want to switch? Portability, flexibility, learning, documentation, compile times, easier to run. Community support.
Oh yeah, the community's amazing.
Community support. They have a lot of things. I'm not on their Discord. I'm sure though it's full of questions and I'm sure it's full of answers that you can just get. Here's the thing. I'm not a person who likes to ask questions. So like community support's a big one because then someone else is almost guaranteed to ask the question for me. So
yeah, like they've got the Godot forums and I can find everything I need usually on there.
If you're shy like me, community support's for you. That's basically all I have to say there.
Or if you're not shy, because then you can ask the question. And it's not going to be like, unfortunately, back in the day when you and I started on Linux, we would like Google something simple, like, and people would be like, how do you not know this, idiot? And that would be the answer. Godot has not ever been like that.
No, not
ever.
From what I can tell. So they're very friendly. And if you're shy, you can find answers pretty quickly. It's a wonderful thing. All right. Now we have done a big rant as to why you'd want to do it. Switch. Why wouldn't you want to switch?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Okay.
The first one, we've hammered this home. Your engine does what you need.
Your engine you already have an engine. First thing.
Yeah, you already have an engine.
You already have an engine.
Yeah. We've talked enough about that. We don't need to drill into that even more.
It doesn't handle 3D as well as you'd want.
Yeah.
Other engines, specifically Unreal, handle 3D wonderfully.
Or Open 3D if you really are. If you're insistent on us on using open source software, then Open 3D, maybe learn that one and make some docs for it.
Yeah. We've been tempted to do that as well. It might happen eventually.
Yes, I'm very excited about that engine actually.
I would really like to mess with that engine more. It's just time.
Yeah.
What else? Why wouldn't you want to switch?
Performance.
Performance. Okay.
Yeah. So like things. So like Unity has like ECS.
Oh,
and like
yes.
Unreal's Unreal. You can have like so many units on screen with those game engines without too much effort. Well, like Unity, it may take a little effort to learn ECS, but like you can just have so much stuff on screen, just all controlled, and it's really nice. Whereas Godot, the kind of game object node system that they've got going makes that a little bit harder to do. I don't think you're going to get the same number of... that's a test we should do sometime, actually, is like...
Okay, our friend Michael, he did, what's that, zombies game?
It's
with like, it's like you're a big monster and... It's like a Gaijin game or something, where it's like you were Godzilla and you had a billion people on screen.
Yeah, he did that in Unity.
No. That was his Godot test.
That was his Godot test. Oh, really?
Was it? Yes, that was his Godot test. And so it definitely can do that.
Okay. I'm not super aware of it. I just we need to... That should be a test we do sometime, actually, is like compare Unity game objects to like Godot nodes, Unity ECS to Godot nodes.
Yeah, that would be a great test.
Yeah, and see like just how many different things we can put on screen. I'm pretty confident that Unity ECS would outperform Godot, but that's just
probably. And Open3D would also outperform Godot because Open3D is an ECS engine.
Yeah. So I think like if you need just like that level of performance, Godot's not going to be your engine if you need that ECS level stuff.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else, do you?
No, because again, like the engine is like going back up to flexibility. You can kind of make it do whatever you want. Oh, actually, you're making a type of game that already has a dedicated engine to it, like RPG Maker. If you were making an RPG, you probably would get a game out faster.
You'd get a game out faster, but I think RPG Maker would definitely pigeonhole you into, like, if you wanted to make a unique RPG,
you're gonna struggle more.
Then maybe you would want RPG Maker, and you'd have to learn Ruby and stuff. I think that's the scripting language they use over there.
Yeah.
But like Godot, that'd be a lot easier. But again, you're gonna have to build all your systems, like inventory. Yeah. It might just be, even for a unique one, it might just be easier to do it in RPG Maker, just because you don't have to handle inventory and stuff.
Yeah, so I think it's like if there's a dedicated engine for the game style that you're making, you probably want to go that way.
Yeah.
Just for simplicity's sake.
Unless you already know Godot, and then just do what you want.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, you already have an engine, always kind of trumps most things.
Yes. No reason to switch, unless that engine already gives you a really good reason to switch. But
Helldivers was made with the Autodesk engine. It does not matter.
Yes.
The engine wasn't even supported. Helldivers 2. Oh, both of them actually were made with that engine.
They both were?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
I guess you and I could probably talk a little bit about why we switched now. Like that would seem relevant to this discussion.
Yeah, I guess. Why we switched. Lack of trust, mainly. For Unity.
Lack of trust and Windows, honestly.
Oh,
the
yes,
Windows support
support.
Those two things were kind of happening at the same time, and we like panicked.
Or Linux support, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Like the Windows was just like forcing Windows 11 on everybody, and we were like, and Unity lost their minds. And we just kind of said, well, for our own development, why are we using this engine that doesn't really work well on the operating system we want it to work on, and that we're going to switch to fully come October? And then for an engine specifically that we don't trust.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Like, I don't particularly trust Microsoft to begin with.
Yeah, I don't trust Microsoft
and I don't
all.
trust Unity. Also, Unity was getting buggy. Bad update after bad update. Like, they pushed ECS out way too soon. It was not ready.
No, it wasn't. It's very difficult to still find any major projects that use ECS in Unity. Yeah.
Like, I just liked the idea that, like, if Godot Foundation lost their minds like Unity does, or did, you could just fork it.
Yeah.
Easy enough, to just fork it.
Someone else is gonna have a fork, or who's gonna be just as pissed off as you, and you can just say, screw you, we're doing our own thing. And you're not gonna have too many issues there. You're not gonna lose your entire engine. Your monetization model isn't gonna fundamentally change.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much everything.
That's all I've got.
That's all I've got.
Hey, if you guys enjoyed this discussion, maybe give us a like. If that's it.
Yep.
Thank you guys.
And if you've got any reasons why you would switch or don't want to switch, please let us know. Or if you switch, tell us why. Awesome. Thank you very much.
See you guys.
See you later. Bye.